Yes, I would like to dedicate this meeting in honor of Justin Lane for this sad situation of his passing January 1st of 2021. I go back with George and Charlene when they first received Justin, and I watched him grow through the ranks of Quartz Hill Pony, watched him play football at Paraclete High School. He's an amazing doer. He did a great job in everything he tried to do, and he was just coming into his own here at Avek, and he'll be dearly missed as a director. So I'd like to dedicate this meeting in honor of Justin Lane.
Thank you, Director Donato. Item 3, moment of silence in memory of Division 4 Director Justin G. Lane. Item 4, roll call vote, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Madam President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Present.
Division 4 is vacant. Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Shelley Sourceville.
Here.
Dwayne Chisholm.
Here.
Tilden Kim.
Here.
And Holly Hughes present.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Item number 5, adoption of agenda.
Madam President, this is Rob. I move we adopt the agenda.
I'll second. This is Keith.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Shelley Sourceville.
Yes. Thank you. Item 6, public comment period and period open to the public. If there's anybody that would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda, now would be the time.
That was awfully darn fast. We're only at 32. It was 5:32 just now.
Okay, item 6A, voluntary public roll call. If there's anybody, member of the public on this teleconference or video conference wishes to identify themselves as present for this meeting, please do so for the record.
This is Joyce.
Palmdale Water District.
Welcome.
John Joyce reporting for Agua Dulce and Acton and Roseman and Lake LA. John Joyce.
Welcome. Anybody else?
Greg
Okay.
Wood, welcome to the Service District.
Welcome. Okay, item 6, new business. Item 6A1, administration of oath of office to reappoint directors. Attorney Kim.
Thank you, Madam President. So, Directors Van Dam and Miller, please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the
Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and alliance
that I will
bear true faith
and alliance
allegiance to
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take
I
this
take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose
or
of
purpose of
evasion,
evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will
faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you.
Congratulations to both of you. Item 6A2, election of board officers, president and vice president. Every 2 years, we rotate or we approve a president and vice president. And I would like to nominate Keith Dias as president and Frank Donato as vice president for the next 2 years.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Director Van Dam. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Kelly Sorsable.
Yes. And at this time, I would like to turn the meeting over to our new president, Director Dias, President Dias. Congratulations.
Thank you, Director Sorsabal, and thank you, the entire board for the confidence that you're displaying in me and Frank. Thank you very much. Item 6A3, proposed 2021 meeting schedule for Board and Finance Committee for information only. This schedule is in the agenda packet. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll move along. Item 7, consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar action items?
This is Director Miller. Move to accept the consent calendar action item.
Director Sorsable, second.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes,
Kelly Sorsable.
Yes.
that carried. Thank you. Item 8, for consideration and possible action. 8A, Planning Committee. The Planning Committee met on December 15th, and among the things we discussed were potential selection of a SCADA consultant and selection of a consultant to prepare a local hazard mitigation plan. And I believe our staff has a report on those two items.
Yes, engineering manager Justin Lipsey will provide those reports for the board.
Good evening, President Dias and members of the board. This is item 8A1, consideration and possible action on selection of Black and Beach as a SCADA consultant and automation services as well. Got a short presentation here for you. I thought I would start off with just going a little bit back. We've discussed SCADA previously, but just a refresher for everyone. SCADA is an acronym for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. This is a system of hardware and software elements that allow utilities to control processes locally or at remote locations, monitor and gather and process real-time data, interact with devices like sensors, valves, pumps, and motors, record these events into a log file, and alert operators to abnormalities in operations. And this is really the backbone of our system, which really allows us to operate on less manpower because we can remotely operate, remote pump stations and things like that. So it's a very important part of the operation of our facility. Our current SCADA system was developed and installed by Jeff Adler of Automation Services. And Mr. Adler has been working on behalf of the agency for all SCADA-related troubleshooting and programming, really as an extension of staff since 1995. So for 25 years, he's been pretty much our entire SCADA department, so to speak. And so concerned over the risk of having this kind of a proprietary single engineered supported system, the board directed staff to begin working toward a non-proprietary SCADA upgrade, something that would be a little bit more available on the market with a little more support from other engineers. And phase one of this work was completed in 2019 when the board awarded a contract to Automation Services to upgrade all of the programmable logic controllers, otherwise known as PLCs, throughout our system. So this was necessary to ensure that all the PLCs in our system would be compatible with a new Windows-based non-proprietary SCADA system on the market. So 4 phases of the SCADA upgrade project were anticipated. Phase 1 was to upgrade the obsolete PLCs. We can mark that one off as completed. Phase 2, which we're discussing today, is to select a new SCADA system and the integrator, who's kind of the programmer that comes in and makes it all work. Phase 3 would be to complete a final design and implement on one representative agency facility, and then take any lessons that we maybe learn from that implementation on to phase 4, which is final design and implementation at the remaining agency facilities. That's kind of high-level overview, and today we're just going to focus on phase 2. Staff worked closely with Mr. Adler to come up with a process that would be necessary to select our new SCADA system, one that will meet our needs, as well as select a competent integrator to program and implement that new system. In discussions with Mr. Adler, he acknowledged that his knowledge of the current SCADA software market is limited. He's been working with his own proprietary brand for so long, and he recommended bringing on a trusted colleague named Jacques Brados, who works for Black & Veatch. They're an engineering and consulting firm. And Jacques and Mr. Adler have worked together previously, and he knows that Jacques has experience with all the current SCADA systems and comes with no bias towards any particular one. So together, Automation Services and Black & Veatch would work closely with Avek staff through the process of selecting the most appropriate SCADA system for our particular agency and select a quality integrator via a competitive RFQ process. So a kind of brief overview of what the process that we plan to go through. So the first step would be to select the new SCADA system. And to do that, we would work together with Black & Veatch and Automation Services to review what our current SCADA system operation looks like, what the industry best practices that are out there that may or may not be in place in our SCADA system, and discuss what the advantages and disadvantages of those features are. Then we would work together to determine what are really the required functions for Avek in order to operate, and what features, based on the industry best practices, that would be optional features for us or would be quote unquote nice to have. Based on that information, Black & Veatch would develop a functional requirements document, and that document would kind of summarize the current SCADA system software that we have and hardware elements, and come up with a conceptual design for some future SCADA system, as well as document the desired features of that system. So using that document as a guideline, sort of a scoring criteria document, we would look at the industry leading software packages that are out there. So there's quite a few out there. Their proposal aims to look at up to 15 potentially industry leading SCADA software packages. And those would be evaluated against the document, functional requirements document. Based on the way each of those SCADA systems score out, we would develop a short list of the 3 systems that look like they would be most compatible with Avek. And so then we would invite those 3 SCADA software vendors to come and demonstrate their products to the agency, to our staff and to our SCADA expert. And they would be asked to tailor that presentation to the items within that functional requirements document, as well as provide cost estimates, including the upfront initial capital costs, as well as ongoing annual maintenance and licensing fees. Director Dias at the committee brought up a good point that we should, visit facilities that have these SCADA software systems in use. And that's exactly what we would intend to do. After we've received the demos and we've heard the presentations from the vendor, we would aim to, if the current climate allows, to go visit treatment plants that have these SCADA systems and really talk with the boots on the ground operators about, what they like and don't like about the system, and try to ensure that what the vendors have told us is actually practical in real life. And, then after that is all completed, we would sit down with the consultants and we would score each of the shortlisted SCADA systems before coming up with our preferred SCADA system software. Any questions on the selection of the SCADA system software? No, that was a lot to go through. All right. Moving on, the next phase of this work would be to develop a request for qualifications for a SCADA system integrator. And this is a pretty straightforward RFQ process that Black & Veatch would help us draft the RFQ. So once we have the SCADA software system targeted, we would develop a basis of design documents. That would basically update the previous functional requirement document and with the new SCADA system in mind. So it would really tailor it towards that particular SCADA system. And then we would issue an RFQ to solicit SCADA software integrators, evaluate those proposals and conduct interviews if necessary, and ultimately select the integrator for the system. So that's a more straightforward process, but I'll pause if anybody has any questions on the kind of the 2 phases of this current work. All right. So moving on to the proposed fee and budget. We got proposals from Automation Services to act as Avek's representative and SCADA expert, in the amount of $30,000, and Black & Veatch, whose role would be to develop the requirements documents and walk us through the SCADA selection process and develop the integrator RFQ. And their proposed fee was $145,242. So that totals out to $175,242. $200,000 was included within the current capital budget for this project. The selection of Black & Veatch is acceptable per our purchasing policy. This Mr. Jacques Brados has specialized knowledge in this field and the trust of working with our SCADA expert, Jeff Adler, in the past for many years. And this will ultimately result in a competitive RFQ process for the selection of the integrator. I should note for the board's future knowledge, the future phases of this project which were phase 3 and 4, which would roll this system out to all the facilities, is estimated right now to total between $3 and $6 million. This is a very early estimate because there's a lot of unknowns. But I will note that $2.8 million over the next 3 years was included within the capital improvement plan section of our water rate study. The planning committee and staff recommendation would be to authorize the general manager to execute the agency's standard professional service agreement with both Black & Veatch and Automation Services for $145,242 and $30,000 respectively. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Do I have a motion to approve Board Order 8A1?
I'll move on Board Order 8A1. This is Frank.
This is Shelley. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion? Can we please have a roll call vote?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Simpson.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
That carries. Thank you very much for the great presentation, Justin.
You're welcome.
Item 8A2. Consideration and possible action on selection of R.E. Patterson and Associates to prepare a local hazard mitigation plan for an amount not to exceed $64,500. Justin, are you making that presentation also?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. Please proceed.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is for the selection of a consultant to prepare the agency's first ever local hazard mitigation plan. A little bit of background on local hazard mitigation. A few definitions here to start. Hazard mitigation is the effort to reduce loss of life and property by lessening the impact of disasters. And then mitigation planning is the process used to understand the risks from natural events and develop long-term strategies that will reduce the impacts of future events on people, property, and the environment. And together, those things would be local hazard mitigation planning. The Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 established the development of a hazard mitigation plan as a condition for receiving certain types of non-emergency disaster assistance through the Hazard Mitigation Assistance Program. So essentially, local hazard mitigation plans provide access to grant money to implement the mitigation strategies identified when developing the plan. Local hazard mitigation plans are developed based on a process which was established by FEMA, and FEMA actually must approve all local hazard mitigation plans. And this kind of high-level process of what it involves, the consultant would work with us to establish an internal planning team that would be agency staff members. They would conduct some community and stakeholder outreach, including public comments and public hearings. So I would gain information from the community on our plan. They would conduct a risk assessment, develop a mitigation strategy for the identified risks. They would develop a plan to make sure that the overall plan is updated every 5 years, and then ultimately prepare the full plan, submit that to Cal OES and FEMA for approval. And once we have those approvals, the plan would need to be adopted by the full board. Any questions on that process as it relates to agency staff and board members? All right, so on April 18th of 2019, Townsend Public Affairs submitted a hazard grant mitigation program application to Cal OES on behalf of the agency. And in August of that year, we were notified that Cal OES had approved that application and forwarded it on to FEMA for their review and approval. Almost a year later, I guess, the agency finally received an award letter for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program funds. And in that, it stated that FEMA obligated up to $125,000 towards our project with an agency cost share of $75,000. That means that the agency would carry the burden of 37.5% of the total project cost. So in accordance with the grant guidelines, the agency released a request for proposals on November 2nd of last year. We received 5 responses, and those are summarized on the table there on your screen. We got, there's a wide range there from 48,500 down to, the last 3 are all pretty close, around 125,000. And in the far right column of that table, I've broken out what the 37.5% Avek share of the total fee would be. And that obviously is quite a bit less. I'll note that the current capital budget included $146,590 for this particular item. And staff's recommendation is to go with the second lowest bidder, R.E. Patterson and Associates. The selection committee felt that their proposal best fit the requirements of the RFP. And R.E. Patterson and Associates did previously work for the agency. They completed our vulnerability assessment and emergency response plans for compliance with the America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018. That work was completed last year. They did a very good job on that, completed that work in a timely fashion. And they have previously completed a FEMA-approved local hazard mitigation plan for the city of South Pasadena. So this is work that they've done successfully in the past. And with that, the planning committee and staff recommendation would be to authorize the general manager to execute the agency's standard professional services agreement with R.E. Patterson and Associates for $64,500 to complete the agency's first local hazard mitigation plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on this at this time.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, this is Rob. I will move to approve Board Order 8A2.
This is Frank. I'll second that.
Do we have a motion and a second? Is there any more discussion, or are there any more questions for Justin? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sourceville.
Yes.
Okay, that carries. And we'll move along to item 10, General Manager's Report.
Oh, wait, we skipped something.
8B.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. I'm new on the job. Okay, item 8B, Director Review Committee. Director Donato, could you please give us a report?
Okay, hang on a second. Okay. Yeah, so basically, we're going to have a motion on this thing. It's in our agenda. Is that going to be done now? We're going to talk about this, or how are we going to how are we going to do that?
We probably should get a decision tonight.
Okay. Well,
I think Tilden can help.
Okay. So let's bring him on first, and then the directors can respond after he tells us the options we have with this situation.
Sure. So this is Tilden Kim. So, we had a vacancy situation last year, as the board may recall, and the board opted to appoint a director, and that was board member Audrey Miller. So basically, we have a decision to make whether we want to for a special election or the appointment of a director. And there's General Counsel Jim Markman gave to Dwayne Chisholm and Matt Knudsen a very detailed memo on the deadlines and procedures for doing so. So staff has that ready in hand once we have a determination of what route we want to go. So basically, the first step for Avek is to notify the county of the vacancy by January 17th, and then within 60 days of the vacancy, the board has to appoint a director, and that deadline is March 2nd, but the last regular board meeting in which we can do so would be the February 23rd date. So things have to happen fairly quickly, and so that basically is the sort of the dividing road, whether the board wants to call a special election or appoint a director. We would note that since Director Lane did not fulfill the first half of his appointment, that whoever would be appointed, that duration would last until the next AVEC general election, which is November of 2022.
And then, doesn't he have to also, right? So he'd be appointed for 2 years, and then at that time he has to run for another 2 years, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I believe that I think the agency should have first opportunity to appoint that replacement, and the reason I believe that's a good idea is our past history, what the AVAC directors have done with appointments, and starting off with Annie Rutledge was an appointee, and then we've had Audrey is doing a great job as an appointee. So I think the board should make that decision and follow that direction.
And I believe the committee agrees with you, Frank.
Okay, yes, that's right. The reason I'm new to this too, remember? So
this is Director Sourceable, and we, as a committee, we looked at all the different options and the time frames and the responsibilities that it would take to be appointed or elected immediately. And if somebody's appointed, then their term will be up in 1 year, right, Tilden?
Mm-hmm.
They would have to run again in a year?
Correct. Yeah. So basically, they would have that seat until November of 2022.
Yes. So it's not the full term. So that's important for everybody to know. So it will go to a vote in a short period of time if we choose to appoint someone. If we choose to elect someone, that seat will be open for a year or until 2022. Tilden.
Oh, that was a question to me?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so if there is a call for a special election, then that special election will not happen until November of 2021.
2021. And the cost to the agency is approximately how much? Do you know? I think it's about $150,000.
That is information I don't have.
Okay.
I believe that's accurate in its general amount. And it's not the exact amount, but it's in that general ballpark.
Okay, I just thought the entire board should have that insight.
Sure.
So I would also agree with Director Donato and Dias in our committee that appointing someone would be in the best interest of the agency.
Would you like to make a motion?
Do we need a motion or do we need a consensus?
Well, I got a question. What's this thing? Okay, so those things in the agenda here. Okay, so, well, it says a board order.
Okay, I'll
whatever you want to do. I'm not the president.
So I think the way this has been, General Manager Chisholm, the way this has been established is by approving the board order, it would be the board consensus and we would check item 2, attempt to appoint a candidate within the next 60 days. And then there's also in your packet a notice of vacancy that would be posted for potential candidates and giving some information. So by approving the board order, you with a notation of moving with item number 2, attempt to appoint a candidate within the next 60 days, the staff can then move forward with the board's desires to provide you with applications and other matters that may be necessary for the board to consider appointing a new director.
Okay, so I'll move on board order 8B1 that we approve the posting notice of vacancy.
I'll second. This is Director Sourceable.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Do we have any more questions?
Mr. President, I have a question. This is Audrey.
Sure.
If we're not able to find a qualified candidate, then it would just go to the November 2021 election. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe so. Can we have some explanation on that, Tilden?
Oh, so if we, cannot appoint anyone?
Yes.
Yeah, let's say we don't find a viable candidate.
If we can't find a viable candidate, then I think by default, then it has to go to a special election.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
There's one more caveat to that too. So let's just say that we did have a special election and nobody ran, then the Board of Supervisors of LA County get to appoint their person.
I see. Thanks for the clarification. I'm ready to vote.
Thank you for the question. Any more questions?
You know what? I said that, but I'm not the attorney.
So this is Tilden. So Director Donato is correct. So if ABEC does not appoint and does not notify of a special election, then that is correct. Then all those decisions are then taken away, and then by default, then it goes to the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. Then they have 90 days to appoint a director or direct ABEC to call an election. So that the trigger for that is April 2nd of this year.
Thank you, Tilden. Any more discussion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Pete Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable.
Yes.
That's carried, and our committee will resume working on the process of advertising the position and helping us to select a successful candidate and bring that back to the board. Now, item 10, General Manager's Report.
Thank you, Board President Dias, for January 12th, 2012. It has been fairly dry in Northern California. As far as our precipitation goes, this week, accumulation of snow is over 8,000. and it looks like we're going to have some pretty warm temperatures up 10 to 15 degrees above normal in our region. So we don't anticipate any considerable rainfall in this particular area. However, just as show you how Mother Nature works, we're currently in a La Nina condition, and traditionally what happens is that pushes the warmer storms north, and there is heavy rainfall in the northwest at the present time. So it's clearly we're going to have some drier conditions for the next couple of weeks until the cycle breaks. This particular item here, we currently have a 10% allocation. The blue bars are average, and you can see that in October we had no rain, very little, about half or a little less than half in November, a lot less than half in December, and so far in January we haven't done too well. And as I indicated to you from the height for the rain possibilities, precipitation point of view, and snow, we're still looking pretty bad. We don't expect any change in our allocation at least until February, and there would have to be some significant storm systems come in to add some water into the system. Oops, push the wrong button there. There you go. So this is our typical graph we look at every 2 weeks. Once again, this is average rainfall, and these are various other years. You can see that this is 77, 78, the driest year on record. And we are, if I can get this thing to work, we're about right here. So you can see it's still early in the year, but we are going to have some significant rainfall in the next few months to get up anywhere close to average. This is reflected in the reservoir conditions. Currently at Lake Orville, we're 56% of our historical average, only about 35% of total capacity. And once again, in San Luis Reservoir, this is water south of the Delta. You can see that we're 67% of our historical average, a little bit better, and at 48% of capacity. Once again, this is the average of the Lake Orville reservoir amount, and you can see we're trending much lower than you would anticipate here, and currently one of the lower type of reservoir levels in recorded history. San Luis Reservoir is the same. Closer to home here, as far as our conventional treatment plants, we're currently off on all of our treatment plants for winter maintenance and for GAC replacement during this low period of water consumption. We still are using the Acton P2PV exchange. So you can see we have a very small total going out to the Acton area. As far as our geopurification for our water banking operations, you can see here that our current flow is about 0.8 million gallons out of the east side plant, 11.2 to 11.5 coming out of the west side, and that's divided between the 2.1 going north and 9.4 going south to the waterworks service area. You can see we're utilizing some of the branch ranch wells during this period when the treatment plants are down. As far as water banking goes, the only recharge rate we have is about 3.5 acre feet, and this is to match our extractions. Coming from that, this map is gives you an idea of where we are currently with regards to since we started our banking operations down in 2010 to where we are today. What you can see from this graph is that we have 89,108 acre feet of water in the ground that's available to us. These tan colored items, these are water quality extractions. that come from our water bank to help us with our THMs. And these blue portions in here are associated when we were able to put water into the system, into the groundwater banking system. And then you can see we had a couple of groundwater transfers that added to what we were able to put into the system in 2020. So at our current usage, which I'll show you what that is, we clearly have at least 2 years of water supply in the groundwater bank. And that's the accomplishment of what the board has been able to accomplish with their water banking process over the last 10 years. We also have 27,000 acre feet as part of our agreement with Metropolitan Water District for their use. As far as actual delivery versus customers' request, you can see that for 2020, our customers requested 49,275 acre feet. We actually delivered 41,735 acre feet. You can see the blue lines are what the customer actually received. The lighter blue bars are the ones that they requested. So you can see early in the year, the actual deliveries were less than what was requested. But as we got through September, October, November, and December, you can see actually there was, especially in December, the amount coming into the system was greater than what was requested. And we were able to comply with that. As far as water quality updates, we completed our new application and training for the new GCMS, and which is our trihalomethane system for getting compliance, or for testing for compliance. And our first round of samplings for 2021 are scheduled for tomorrow. As far as our operation maintenance updates, we're going to have the Quartz Hill plant back online following, as I mentioned, the completion of our annual maintenance and GAC replacements. We did, Eastside plant is back online also following its GAC replacements. We did hire a new technician. He started this week. His name is Paul Hickman, yeah. And as far as our SNIP Phase 2 WIIN grant application updates, as you know, we met with Congressman Mike Garcia's office, and we've engaged them, and they've been in contact with the Board of Bureau of Reclamation Deputy Commissioner Shelby Hagnauer, and so they've Hagenauer. And so they've engaged with the DC policy team. We've provided recommendations, and Towns and Public Affairs is making regular contact with their office, and the agency staff is following up with Towns and Public Affairs on a weekly basis. As far as COVID-19 responses, we're continuing to implement the protocols, and we have no confirmed cases of COVID-19 at the present time. As far as our schedule and events go, we have a Martin Luther King's holidays on the 18th of this month. We have a Water Master meeting on the 27th. My schedule is I plan to be in the office with the exception of the Martin Luther King holiday, and other than that, we'll be in the office or available as necessary for the board. With that, that completes the report to the my report for today, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Dwayne? Great report, Dwayne. Thank you very much. Item 11, Director's Report. Does anybody have a report? Hearing none, we'll move along. Item 12, Attorney's Report. Sheldon, do you have anything?
No, nothing else to report.
Okay, thank you. Item 13, are there any requests for future agenda items? Item 14, do we have a reason to go into closed session tonight?
Yes, we do. It's item D.
Item 14D is in David.
Correct.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move we go into closed session.
Thank you, Rob.
This is Shelley. I'll second.
Thank you, Shelley. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable.
Yes.
Okay, that carried. We're going to be going into closed session shortly on item 14D.
Okay, I'm going to give the control over to Rob to be the host.
Thank you, Holly.
Holly, are you going to put everybody into the room, or how do you want to handle that?
I need to make you the host, and you need to
Click them in?
Yep.
Okay.
So you can create the room, and then you can click them in, I think.
You will create the room, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.